Emory community and others, hello. I'll say my favorite thing about being at Emory University is being surrounded by a group of ambitious people. Take, for example, my roommate. He studies for hours every single day in hopes of attending a top med school. His passion for medicine has led him to want to become a doctor so that he can save lives. Take another good friend of mine. He's really interested in creating ideas for startups and hopes to one day create his own that helps with environmental conservation. Me? I buy and sell sneakers. I promise I'm not addicted. You see, sneakers were always a huge part of my life. So essentially, I'm a sneakerhead. If you don't know what this term means, the Urban Dictionary defines a sneakerhead as someone who buys sneakers, oftentimes trendy ones, usually on the verge of bankruptcy. Luckily, I'm not bankrupt just yet. But being in this hobby, you hear so many misconceptions. I can't tell you the countless amount of times I've heard them about sneakers and sneaker culture. Let me go ahead and share a few with you. The first is that they have no inherent significance other than their practical function. The second is that they cost way too much. And the last one, the one my parents proclaim the most, sneakers are just items that we wear on feet. All of the above, I've heard a multitude of times. And I used to believe them too. But that was until I really began to recognize what sneakers can mean, reflect, and embody. Right about now, I know what you're thinking. Sneakers? Yes, sneakers. Simply put, they're a representation of life. They represent a future of endless possibilities, while also representing a symbolic value that, regardless of time period, will never change. And through all of that, I hope to just keep on going forward with the idea. Through most of my childhood, it's surprising to say that just like you, I was not into sneakers. Throughout most of my childhood, I just received one pair per year. However, there was one pair that stood out from the rest. I remember it so vividly. I was in the 3rd grade. My previous pair had just been through dog poop, and my dad had finally just come home with, wait for it, these bad boys, also known as Skechers Light Ups Police Edition. You see, there's something about light-up sneakers that bring about a sense of awe, a sense of innovation within 8-year-olds. You know, as I grew older and my interest in light-up sneakers diminished, I found interest in other aspects of footwear. Things from eye-catching silhouettes to loud colors. And just like me, everyone has a preference towards this. There's a reason why people gravitate towards a certain sneaker over the other. There's a reason why people prefer some aspect of a silhouette or some aspect of a certain color. You know, an ongoing trend of my generation is that we want sneakers to not only be wearable, but also fashionable and on trend. We want our sneakers to stand out and be the statement pieces of our outfits. In other words, for my generation, sneakers became a piece of wearable art to be viewed, revered, and appreciated. However, what makes a sneaker truly art isn't just the aesthetics. Rather, what makes a sneaker truly art is the technology. Sneaker companies spend millions of dollars every single year on their research and development in hopes of creating the next big innovation. When we think of technological marvels of the past, we often think of Apple's iPhone or Google's self-autonomous driving vehicle, both of which were significant in setting the precedent for what the future in their respective industries could look like. In this conversation, I'd like to include the Nike Air Mag. In the sneaker world, we akin this to Apple's iPhone. First introduced in 1989 in the movie Back to the Future 2, this shoe was and is still considered the symbol of sneaker innovation. In the movie, it was capable of so many things: auto-lacing, glowing, attaching to hoverboards, and was otherwise characterized as having unparalleled performance capabilities unlike any of its sneaker predecessors. At the time of its creation, it was just another idea of what sneakers in the future could possibly look like. But slowly, that future is becoming the present. The cultural significance of the Air Mag remained for several decades and culminated in 1,500 pairs being released to the general public. The demand was so high that one pair bid for $200,000. The Air Mag, with its superb machinery, did indeed set the precedent for what sneakers in the future could look like. Did I mention they glow just like these bad boys? But before we go into this technological overhaul that could be present in our future, we have to look to the past. And what better sneaker to discuss than one that not only began this industry, but has been around for over a century and connected it with the everyday person, the Converse Chuck Taylor All-Star. Through a long heritage in sports culture, Converse established and maintained popularity. Soon, it became the premier inexpensive sneaker to own. In a time where leather boots were all the craze for women, and leather Oxford shoes were the predominant choice for men, Converse came in and established a more comfortable and athletic ride. And it's iconic, famous for its white sole, canvas upper, and white patch. And while Converse didn't necessarily have the same features as the Air Mag, or anything even remotely similar, it did have the same revolutionary impact. Converse laid the foundation for many future sneakers and my own sneaker passions. Just like this, right here, in my first pair of Converse, the first pair of shoes I ever bought for myself. Today, we would never think to wear Converse in sport. It's a testament to the quick progression of technological progress in sneakers and society as a whole. Today, the future of innovation in this industry no longer lies in improving sports performance. Rather, the innovation lies in creating a new age of wearable technology. By connecting our phones with our sneakers, we'll be able to simplify the way we track our health benefits and steps, change the daily design of our sneakers at the tap of a button. And these are just a few of the features that could be out there. By creating a new age of wearable smart sneakers, we have the potential to transform our everyday wearing experience. But that's not it, because the biggest technological innovation in sneakers has just occurred: the introduction of 3D printing. In 2017, Adidas collaborated with Silicon Valley startup Carbon to create the world's first ever 3D printed sneaker, the Adidas Futurecraft 4D. This is a big deal, because in the future, you will be able to go to your local Adidas store, take a physical assessment, and then have a sneaker printed out that matches the exact specifications of your foot. Alternatively, instead of buying the sneakers themselves, you could be buying 3D printing sneaker plans that you'll take back to your house and print there. And while this possibility isn't foreseeable in the immediate future, it's exciting to know that the potential exists and is out there. But again, before all of this technological overhaul happens, we'll have to continue with how we've traditionally known to buy sneakers, through retail. I'm assuming that most of you go to your local sneaker store, buy a pair for $100 or less, then go about your day. A seemingly insignificant purchase, you expect to make it for the rest of your life. Unfortunately, this process might not be around forever, because just as sneakers are changing, so is the sneaker business. What I mean by that is that those little things on your feet, which are often seen as having little to no significant value, are promoting a change in the consumption of things. Let's revisit this idea that sneakers are like art pieces. Like famous paintings, certain pairs can be worth an extremely high monetary value. However, this value shouldn't be judged solely by its retail price. Instead, it should be judged by two factors: quantity and what we sneakerheads call hype. Simply put, the consumer and what they're willing to pay will set the minimum purchase price. It's simple supply and demand. The less quantity there is, the more people will be willing to pay for it. Let's take a look at the data behind the Nike Air Yeezy 2. In 2012, 5,000 pairs released to the general public. Retailing for a book value of $250, this high book value, coupled with an extremely limited supply, set this sneaker to rise up massively in value and become extremely coveted. And if you didn't know, this sneaker was designed by the famous musician Kanye West. And anything this guy says or does, catches fire almost immediately. So it's no surprise that today, this sneaker sells for 14 times its original value. Here's a look at some of the sales for the size 8 over the past half of a year. 3,870, 3,002, $3,329. What I'm trying to say is that if you had bought 10 pairs of the Nike Air Yeezy 2 at time of release, held them until now, and now decided to sell them, you could have made $33,000 in profit. With that type of return, it's not crazy for me to compare sneakers to an investment asset. Like a tradable security or real estate property, sneakers have the ability to appreciate and depreciate in market value. Once people recognized that sneakers were able to be sold for double, triple, 10 times its original value, a whole demographic of people, also known as resellers, came to life. These were the people that bought the Air Yeezy 2 and resold it for thousands of dollars. And in large part, this new method of buying and investing in sneakers has contributed to the billions of dollars in revenue that the sneaker industry and the secondary sneaker market gain every single year. Thankfully, companies like StockX have made the secondary market accessible to the everyday user. StockX, which by the way was founded by Emory alum Josh Luber, has transformed the secondary sneaker market into a commodities investing market. Now, just like stocks, you can buy sneakers at a market price through a regulated secondary market. And it's accelerating beyond sneakers. It's handbags, watches, clothing, and other accessories that have the ability to appreciate and depreciate, and now can be sold on a secondary regulated market. In the future, we could see people not only investing in securities, but also material goods. And so sneakers are contributing in a wide variety of factors, but they have now taken the front seat as drivers of our popular culture as well. They become intertwined with music and streetwear culture. They're constantly being seen in movies, in magazines, talked about in the news, and celebrities are constantly seen wearing them, further proving how sneakers have infiltrated our pop culture. My favorite examples of this can be found in hip-hop. In the 80s and 90s, rap music caught fire, and with it, so did their shoes and clothing. A kid would listen to his favorite hip-hop music, go through his favorite magazines, find his favorite rappers, and observe a new wave of street style that they so desperately wanted to take part in. I was that kid. Because just like these rappers, I wanted to be fresh. One example of hip-hop's impact on sneakers can be seen through the songs. Nelly's Air Force One in 2002 contributed massively to the popularity of the Air Force One. With 52 million hits on YouTube, and many having seen it at the time of its release, it contributed massively to the popularity of the Air Force One, which is now currently one of the best-selling sneakers of all time. Another song is Macklemore's Wings.
I was 7 years old when I got my first pair, and I stepped outside, and I was like, Mama, this air bubble right here, it's gonna make me fly. I hit that court, and when I jumped. I swear I got so high, I touched the net. Mom, I touched the net. This is the best day of my life.
Air Max's, okay, I can't continue the rest of the song, but you get the idea. This song details his childhood obsession with sneakers and how they've impacted his life. 160 million hits on YouTube. Thanks to hip-hop, and of course, other factors, more and more people have begun to wear sneakers. They can be seen everywhere, from the streets to the office, to the world's most elegant stage, the red carpet. Thanks to the deepening ties between the sneaker industry and sports figures, musicians, and other influencers, sneakers' presence in our everyday lives continues to grow. Lastly, but most importantly, sneakers are a projection of our own individuality. Each pair, the ones I'm wearing, the ones you're wearing, have a story that gives it a meaning beyond its functional value. There's a reason why people buy 10 pairs of the same sneaker. There's a reason why people get upset when their adored models change. Sneakers are part of who we are and what we aspire to be. I always aspired to be like this man, but the greatest or the closest I could ever get was by wearing his sneakers. People who buy Air Jordans for $200, I promise, are not crazy. Our love for the brand says something about our passions, our values, our bonds, our inspirations, our aspirations, our identities, and so much more. We love Air Jordans not just because of their amazing color blocking or cool silhouettes, but because it was worn by the greatest basketball player to ever live. Kids want to be like Mike, so they wore Jordans. Adults have nostalgic memories of Jordan's game winners, so they buy Jordans. It's his story and our connections to them that have propelled the Jordan brand into one of the most beloved and recognizable brands in all of sneakers. And sneakers, because of that, will always have a symbolic value. Here is a picture of me in my all-white Vans auditioning for America's Got Talent. Here's me in my pair of black monochromatic Chuck Taylors in my first ever album photo shoot. Here's a photo of me in a pair of Nike Free Runs that my mother gave me. I only get the opportunity to see her every several years. So when I wear these sneakers, it reminds me that she's still with me with every step that I take. This is a pair of Adidas Ultra Boosts that my friends got me for my 20th birthday when I was going through an extremely distressing time period. All of these sneakers have a symbolic value to me, and because of that, I'll never throw them away. So back to the overarching question, why sneakers? I can tell you, it's not just because there's some items that we wear on our feet. For some, sneakers are a status symbol. For some, sneakers are a fantastic way to make massive profits. For some, sneakers are technological marvels to be gazed at. For me, sneakers are a way of staying in touch with my humanity and my identity. They communicate a little bit about me, my interests and passions, to the outside world, while helping others communicate with me. And regardless of what's next, in sneakers, or for myself, that'll never change.